parties who create the risk. So if you want to insure an asset, you manage that asset. You're responsible for making it resilient. You're responsible for maintaining it. And in that process, it's not necessarily efficient to engineer everything to the point where there is no risk left to the asset. Insurance pools are quite efficient at aggregating residual risk which is not economically efficiently managed through other means. But when those facilities become in a circumstance or become in a condition where the natural catastrophe exposure causes the facility to be exposed to losses that may be greater than the underlying asset value or a substantial percentage of that asset value when figured over the capital amortization period or basically the natural life of that asset, then all of a sudden people begin to say insurance is not affordable. And this is when we begin to see the emergence of public pools in many cases. But the challenge with those public pools is that unlike the private pools where that price signal is sent directly back to the party who controls the risk, in the public pool, the collection of that risk may not in fact be sent back and the message may not be sent back in terms of a premium to the party who creates that risk. So if you look at the Florida Citizens Insurance Pool, for example, it's predicated on an ex post financing structure with the concept that when a loss occurs, the reinsurance pool for the state will reinsure all of the insurers who issue policies to homeowners. Those homeowners will be paid for their losses when they occur to restructure the community. But the cost or the capital necessary to make those payments will, under those plans, be accrued by issuing municipal bonds after the loss. And then the repayments for those bonds, in fact, under that structure, are shifted to business through residual market pool loading, which is a bit complicated concept, but it's a charge that goes on to their insurance when they continue to do business in the state of Florida. There are more complexities to these programs overall, but what it's suggesting is that people continue to get a very reduced price signal, and they're not necessarily encouraged to invest in resilience in a manner that's consistent with or concomitant with the risk to which their facilities are exposed. Next, so what we need to do is think about transition ramps that will begin to push people in a way to make those decisions about investment. Next slide, please. The challenge is to try to determine whether insurance can be the vehicle for making those changes. I would argue that, in fact, insurance alone cannot, but we do have data and we have information and can share expertise that can facilitate this process. It is a social choice about about how people are going to structure pools, about how they're going to respond to these increased risks. And I think that today, the positive part of the message I want to leave for you is I think that there are models that are being developed not only in our industry but by people outside of our industry that are finally allowing municipalities to begin to make cogent decisions about cost benefits for investing in resilience, for doing improved infrastructure, and for changing building codes in ways that have been impossible previously. I think Lika identified some of those, but if you proceed to the next slide, I'd like to talk about a few more. In addition to the changing programs that